Good evening, everybody. This is Qesheth, and greetings in 93. I'm here again to discuss the next in our series of, to continue the series of talks on the major arcana and the relationship to the path of initiation. For hidden within the major arcana is the path of initiation for those with eyes to see. In these series of talks, I've been doing the best that I can to explain these cards and these paths on the path of return, the path of evolution, the path of the serpent. In this talk, I will be talking about path number 18, which connects Bina, Saturn, with Gabura, Mars, understanding and strength. For it is through true spiritual strength that we come unto understanding. The tarot atu for this path is the Chariot, and the letter is Qesheth, meaning fence. We will go into that here in just a little bit. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to start this talk with a reading from a holy book, one of the holy books of the Lima, called Liber Qesheth, which directly pertains to this card. Now, some people will find the terminology used in this writing as offensive, but try to remember that these terms are veils for greater truths. So this is one of my favorite holy books. This particular book was received by Frater Perdurabo. Received books or inspired books means they were, directly inspired from the higher realms. So anyway, I'm going to do a reading from this holy book called Liber Qesheth. This is the secret of the Holy Grail. This is the sacred vessel of Our Lady, the Scarlet Woman, Babylon, the mother of abominations, the bride of chaos, that rideth upon our Lord the Beast. Thou shalt drain out thy blood that is thy life into the golden cup of her fornication. Thou shalt mingle thy life with the universal life. Thou shalt keep not back one drop. Then shall thy brain be dumb, and thy heart beat no more. And all thy life shall go from thee, and thou shalt be cast out upon the midden. And the birds of the air shall feast upon thy flesh, and thy bones shall whiten in the sun. Then shall the winds gather themselves together, and bear thee up, as it were, a little heap of dust, in a sheet that hath four corners. And they shall give it unto the guardians of the abyss. And because there is no life therein, the guardians of the abyss shall bid the angels of the winds to pass by. And the angels shall lay thy dust in the city of the pyramids, and the name thereof shall be no more. Now therefore, that thou mayest achieve this ritual of the Holy Grail, do thou divest thyself of all thy goods. Thou hast wealth, give it unto them that have need thereof, yet no desire towards it. Thou hast health, slay thyself in the fervor of thine abandonment unto Our Lady. Let thy flesh hang loose upon thy bones, and thine eyes glare with thy quenchless lust into the infinite, with thy passion for the unknown, for her that is beyond knowledge, the accursed one. Thou hast loved, tear thy mother from thine heart, and spit in the face of thy father. Let thy foot trample the belly of thy wife, and let the babe at her breast be the prey of dogs and vultures. For if thou dost not this with thy will, then shall we do this despite thy will, so that thou attain to the sacrament of the Grail and the chapel of abominations. And behold, if by stealth thou keep unto thyself one thought of thine, then shalt thou be cast out into the abyss forever, And thou shalt be the lonely one, the eater of dung, the afflicted in the day of be with us. Yea, verily, this is the truth, this is the truth, this is the truth. Unto thee shall be granted joy and health and wealth and wisdom when thou art no longer thou. Then shall every gain be a new sacrament, and it shall not defile thee. Thou shalt revel with the wanton in the marketplace, and the virgins shall fling roses upon thee, and the merchants bend their knees and bring thee gold and spices. Also young boys shall pour wonderful wines for thee, and the singers and dancers shall sing and dance for thee. Yet shalt thou not there Yet shalt thou not be therein, for thou shalt be forgotten, dust, lost in dust. Nor shall the aeon itself avail thee in this, for from the dust shall a white ash be prepared by Hermes the invisible. And this is the wrath of God, that these things should be thus. And this is the grace of God, that these things should be thus. Therefore I charge you that you come unto me in the beginning. For if you take but one step in this path, ye must arrive inevitably at the end thereof. This path is beyond life and death. It is also beyond love. But that ye know not, for ye know not love. And the end thereof is known not even unto Our Lady, or unto the beast whereon she rideth, nor unto the Virgin her daughter, nor unto Chaos her lawful lord, but unto the crowned child is it known. It is not known if it be known. Therefore unto Hadit and Nuit be the glory and in the end and the beginning, yea, and the end and the beginning. I love that book. It's a beautiful book. These holy books have to be studied pretty deeply with a deep meditative mind and an understanding of the attributions of the past. When he talks about the lady, the scarlet woman, Babylon, he's actually talking about Bina in manifestation. And our Lord the Beast, of course, would be the sun, our HGA consciousness. And when it talks about the mother of abominations, you got to remember, in the Hermetic sciences and the spiritual sciences, material manifestation was considered an abomination. So, of course, the Great Mother would be the mother of abominations. But anyway, it's a beautiful book. If you really didn't want to hear it, you could have just fast forwarded through that. But it pertains directly to this path. And again, I just want to repeat, we are talking about here the path 18, the path of the Chariot. Just bear with me, and I appreciate those who have stuck with me through these classes. I know I'm hard to listen to sometimes. I kind of have a slight speech impediment, but I have been on this. I have been working with these sciences for over 30 years. I'm an initiate of various mystery schools. I've spent time with Buddhist elders studying Buddhism, Hinduism, Native American shamanism, Nordic mysteries. I've just been on this quest my whole life for knowledge. What I'm sharing with you is a little bit of what I've learned through the years. I'm just sharing with you my opinions on these symbols. Feel free to disagree with me or however you feel about it. But anyway, I'm going to go on. In the Sefer Yetzirah, which is a book, I've never explained a Sefer Yetzirah, but it was a book that was kind of brought forth in the 2nd to 6th centuries. The origin is unknown, but that's where we get the word Sephirah for the Sephirot. But it's a primary manuscript for the study of Kabbalah. The 18th path is called the House of Influence, by the greatness of whose abundance the influx of good things upon created beings is increased. Okay? By the greatness of whose abundance the influx of good things upon created beings is increased. And from the midst of the investigation, the arcane and hidden senses are drawn forth, which dwell in its shade, and which cling to it. from the cause of all causes. So did you catch that? And from the midst of the investigation, meaning the great work, the Hermetic sciences, the hidden senses are drawn forth. So all senses, everything in the material world is a reflection of that which is in the spiritual world, right? So all your senses are just a reflection. But these are the true senses. And so what this is saying is the hidden senses are drawn forth, are awakened within you, the knowledge of the supernal triad. This is path number 18. 18 is 1 plus, and it's for simple mathematics, 1 plus 8 equals 9. 9 is a number of the moon, Yesod. And you see that he's sitting upon a moon, but we will get into that here in a moment. 9 is a number of the moon, and it's a self-perpetuating number. As I talked about in my previous talks, if you're new to this talks, you should start with my first talk, which addressed the first path on the path of evolution, the path of return. Because I reveal different knowledge as I go, and it'll make more sense to you as you go. So the reason it's a self-perpetuating number is because no matter what of the base numbers, no matter what number you multiply it by, the sum total will be 9. So, for instance, 9 plus 1 is 9. 9 plus 2 is 18. 1 and 8 is 9. 9 plus 3 is 27. 7 and 2 is 9. So it's a self-perpetuating number. And we have talked about in the previous, especially the talk on the Hermit card, where we are giving birth to ourselves. Self-perpetuating. The Tarot Atu is the Chariot. It shows the union of, so it's Atu 7. 7 is a number that it shows, 7 is a number that shows the union of the 3 and the 4. The 3 being the supernal triad, and the 4 representing the material world. 7 is also the number of Venus, Netzach, and what is the title for Netzach? Victory. For in this card is a card of victory. The Hebrew letter for this card is Qesheth. Qesheth means fence or enclosure. And you also saw this in Crowley's Sun card, in his version of the Sun card here, where you saw 2 youth dancing at the base of a hill or mountain, but the hill of the mountain was enclosed by a fence. Meaning at this level of their initiation, or this level of the aspirant's initiation, the higher mysteries are hidden from them, are not available to them. Certain knowledge is only available to you as you reach various levels of initiation, changes in your energetic level. Okay. And so we talked to Qesheth is fence, enclosure, here referring to the body that encases spirit. Also, the spiritual practice known in the Vedic tradition as yama or niyama. And also to yoga, which means to yoke, showing the discipline of restraint. It is through the body that we do this great work, through the restraining of the senses to the one thing. So in the Vedic tradition, the Hindu tradition, there are practices called yama and niyama. And basically, to break it down simply, you determine your personal morality. You examine your entire life. You know your weaknesses and your strengths. And you determine what you can do and can't do. One person can drink a glass of wine. Another person has a tendency to alcohol. So morality is not universal. Some morality that's based on society is universal. But personal morality has to do with has to do with what we as initiates or aspirants can allow into our lives without causing us problems. For instance, like I said, One person can have a drink of wine and they're fine, but another person goes off the deep end. And so, uh, yama and niyama are practices which teach us to bind these habits within ourselves and to examine ourselves. And so, in a sense, it represents that enclosure. Uh, Interestingly enough, the letter Keth, which is the Hebrew letter for this path, when broken down in gematria, comes to 418, the number of the great work, the number of the word abrahadabra, the word that contains in itself the formula for a spiritual attainment. And this is a great practice for those of you who are just getting into gematria. Take this word abrahadabra, break it down to gematria, and you'll see some pretty interesting truths unveiled. The zodiacal sign, we talked about that. There are what? 12 zodiacal paths, 7 planetary paths, and 4 elemental paths. This is a zodiacal path. The zodiacal sign is Cancer. Cancer is ruled by the moon, and Jupiter is therein exalted. Jupiter being the organizing force that organizes the images coming out of the unconscious, out of the path of the moon. So it is the organizing factor. The animal for Cancer is the crab, which refers to the vessel, our bodies, that bear the Holy Grail, the encasing of spirit. The path name is the intelligence of the house of influence. Think about that. The intelligence of the house of influence. A new intelligence is gained here, folks. Again, it talked about it connects Binah and Gebura, Mars, and Saturn. The tarot title for this card is the Child of the Powers of the Waters, the Lord of the Triumph of Light. Okay, this is one of the paths coming out of the supernal triad, the so-called Garden of Eden, because the supernal triad is called the Garden of Eden, pouring forth one of the 4 rivers coming from the supernals upon creation. Here, 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 and here. So here we have the path of the earth coming into the Hierophant card, the river of fire coming through the path of the emperor or the star, the path of air or wind coming to the path of the lovers, and the path of water, okay, the river of water coming down this path. And they are united here. All 4 of these rivers are united on the path of the high priestess, who directly informs the higher consciousness within the individual. And again, these rivers are like fiber optics, rivers of information pouring forth upon creation. Cancer, being ruled by the moon, shows the primordial waters organized by Jupiter, the planet in exaltation in this sign. On this path, the path of return, of evolution, the aspirant is now totally merged with their higher self, a process that's been perfected and refined through the earlier stages of the work. The union thereof was seen in the last path I talked about, the path of strength. Here, okay? We saw the conjoining of the lady and the beast. Here, they are totally merged. On the path of strength, they were united. Here, they are made one. The chariot is now completely merged with the Supreme Self. This is the return to the Great Mother Binah, our true home in the Garden of Eden, preparing for the initiation of the Master of the Temple into the city of pyramids. The initiation of Binah is the initiation of the Master of the Temple. And it's called the City of Pyramids because those who have seen the vision of this and the masters, I do know one I have met and am aware of one master of the temple alive today, and what you they in Binah, in this temple of Binah, you see all these robed figures that kind of look like pyramids, sitting, uh, awaiting. So, preparing for the initiation of the master of the temple into the city of pyramids to gestate and await the next step of spiritual evolution, the initiation of Hakma, the Magus. So we're getting pretty far up here on the tree of life. The symbols are becoming more complicated. Uh, the attainment, the spiritual attainment here is, so far away for so many people, but, it's good to meditate on these symbols. Okay. Here, the physical manifestation is returned to pure spirit. But on the path of involution, okay, so on the path of involution, the path of creation, okay, we talked about that. The highest spiritual self takes incarnation. So on this path, on the path of involution, the path of creation, coming down from the supernals, this would be where the supreme spiritual self takes incarnation. For in Binah are the supernals concentrated in a period of gestation, preparing to flow their images into Hesed, the first Sephira below the abyss, the first manifestation of the microprosopis. Here, water and fire. Water, Cancer is a water sign, and fire are mixed in a process known as distillation. The result is a pure vapor, pure spirit. This is the highest path on the pillar of severity. So we have the pillar of mercy and the pillar of severity. And something to meditate on, the pillar of severity is considered the feminine pillar. And we have the pillar of equilibrium, of harmony. This card, as well as the Atu, the Hermit, and Strength, represent the introduction to the supreme spiritual self. This chariot carries the throne in which the supreme self sits as ruler of our micro-universe. This card represents the relationship of spirit to its container. And interesting, and something I want to point out, the angels of Binah are the Erolim. And that's something I haven't been talking about too much. There are also angels for each path and elementals for each path, but I haven't really gotten into that. But there's so much to cover that I just can kind of touch on each path as much as I can. So interestingly enough, the angels of Binah are the Erolim, meaning thrones. The angels of Hakma are the Athanim, the wheels. The throne is Kether. So here you have the representation here, the wheels, Hakma, the motivating Yod force moving this chariot, and you have the thrones, Binah. Binah is also referred to the throne, but the true throne is Hakma, for it takes all the pre-manifestation from Ein, Ein Sof, and Ein Sof Or. And that's a discussion for another class or another talk. I keep wanting to call these things classes, but they're not really classes. I'm just kind of sharing some stuff I've picked up over the years. Okay, the image of the chariot card is based on the vision of the chariot seen by Ezekiel, where the Supreme Being is seen in a chariot on a throne. It is also based on the Merkabah tradition in Judaism, where adherents to this system meditate upon the divine image of this being on its throne in this chariot. And this is actually called the Merkabah tradition. So the imagery of this card is kind of based on these things. The Western Hermetic tradition is pretty much based on Judaism and Christian imagery. But feel free as you learn They say once you reach the level of Magus, you can pretty much write your own Kabbalah. This is the warrior tried and purified by Mars, who now goes forth into the eternal darkness. The true light, for he is the Lord of the triumph of light. He has triumphed over the false light, the light of creation, which blinds us to reality. Believe it or not, the light of the sun that we see every day, that reflects, because we see things because the light reflects off of them. And it's a play of, protons and electrons. But this is the light that actually blinds us to the true spiritual reality. It is the veil. And when we get to the High Priestess card, we'll talk about that, because in Crowley's version, you see this veil that she has over herself, that false light. It's not necessarily false light, because it gives us a perception of a reality, but it is us who needs to delve a little deeper behind that light to seek the darkness. Okay. He is the Lord of the triumph of light, because he has triumphed over the false light. The aspirant has now become the philosopher's stone, seen as the white cube on the breast of the charioteer in Waite's version here. And but we'll look at that in a minute. In the Golden Dawn version of the card, which I do not have, I'm sorry, and Golden Dawn actually has a really cool deck of cards that you color yourself, so that's a good way to learn the attributions. Another way that I've learned the attributions of the Tree of Life is we drew the Tree of Life. So, I'd like to show that to you, but we drew the entire Tree of Life, and on each path we drew all the attributions, we colored it, and that was a great practice for learning these attributions. But in the Golden Dawn version, it is Odin who drives the chariot. Odin is the god of initiation in the Teutonic mysteries, and he's one of my favorite gods. He's like Krishna, he is like this magus, someone who has reached this level of initiation. And so he is a god of initiation, very misunderstood god. But he's a god of initiation because of the initiatic processes that he went through. But anyway, in Jungian terms, this would be individuation. And if you studied Carl Jung, the terms for this card would be individuation. Okay, we're going to take a quick look at the cards. We're going to start with Crowley. And I'm going to try to put this up in front of the camera so everybody can see it. Okay. So, it shows a charioteer armored in gold, bearing the Holy Grail. So he's got this gold armor and he's bearing the Holy Grail, representing the spiritual sun. Here the sun is separated from the other base metals represented by the sphinxes and freed from contamination. In the Hermetic sciences, they talk about like the mining for the gold. And this is just an explanation. This is just a way of explaining that you're going deep within the recesses of your own being to find that gold, that spiritual essence of yourself. Unlike in the material world, where the elements are mixed in various combinations, here the elements are separated, analyzed, and refined. Fixed. Here is the extracting of the pure spiritual gold. And as we all know, gold has been used by most all spiritual traditions throughout time to symbolize spirit, because it was observed that it remains untarnished and seemed eternal. And also, interesting enough, in religions like Hinduism, you see, their temples draped in gold, and in Buddhism, and that is because their adepts only reach the initiatic level of Tiphereth. In the new Aeon, the gates, the keys to the abyss have been given to us, and for those who seek them. And now our initiatic journey can continue to take us through the abyss to the ultimate supreme. Okay, I'm following notes here on the computer. Okay. His face, let me put it back up here real quick. His face is hidden, for no man may look upon the face of God and live. So he's no longer a man, he's a God. And remember when I talked about the statue of Isis that says, no man shall unveil me. No man shall unveil me. Well, guess what? What do they think? Uh, one of the things that a master of the temple is referred to is no man. One of the names that that particular initiation would be referred to. Okay, let me get back and get the card back up here. His chariot is pulled by four sphinxes, the four cherubs, the four fixed signs. Remember what I talked about in the Wheel of Fortune talk, that the sphinx represents perfection, stability, and harmonization of the elements. These sphinxes also represent the 16 sub-elements. Also, the four powers of the sphinx: to will, to know, to dare, and to keep silence. Remember what I said about the fixed signs. They represent the raw elements brought under control of will. Here, they serve the Supreme Self, again referring back to what I talked about in previous talks. Move my thing here. Regarding the redirection of the raw forces of nature. And in Greek mythology, the chariot of the sun is pulled by four horses. Right above his head, though barely perceivable, is the word abrahadabra, a word containing the formula of initiation in the new aeon, and it's very hard to see. The red in this card shows Mars as the motive force. Red also signifies the blood, whereas the divine force is carried throughout the body. Our blood carries vital spiritual elements throughout our bodies that come from the air that we breathe and the food that we eat and the sunshine that we take in. That is why learning to breathe properly and a proper diet is so important. And getting outside and absorbing sunlight. Breath, spirit, the ruach, all refers to the fool, who represents what? Pure spirit. The card of air. So think about that, okay? Paul Foster Case says that there is actually a change in the chemical makeup of the blood in the aspirant who has come this far on his initiatic path. The 10 stars, these little 10 blue stars, on his armor represent the world of Isaiah, the world of the tree of life in Isaiah. Okay, so Isaiah, of course, is the world of Isaiah exists within this within the paths of the personality. It represents the physical created universe. And when I say that the tree of life in Isaiah, there's four trees of life. Malkuth Kether is actually the Malkuth of Ein Sof. Malkuth is actually the Kether at the next level of creation. And there's a tree of life within each of the Sephirot. So we're talking about 400 trees of life if you really want to get into it deeply. It's a study that I would recommend. Okay, in this card again, he bears the Holy Grail, red with life blood, and it's in his center, showing that the spiritual center is now in control. And in Crowley's card, you see the middle pillar on the tree of life. You have here Kether. Okay, the Grail is Tipperith. The moon you see here, the foundation, Yesod. Behind the charioteer, you see these You see what appears to be layers of manifestation. And this is kind of how I perceive our coming into being, bursting forth from a singular point and moving outward, becoming denser at each energetic level. So rather than kind of picturing reality like this, you can picture yourself as like multiple levels, okay, multiple layers, energetic layers, bursting forth into creation, becoming more dense with each energetic level. The spiritual journey is the process of peeling away of all non-essentials until we arrive at our center, here seen as the Holy Grail. The colors blue and purple refer to Jupiter in the king and queen scales. And I want to say something really briefly about the colors. When you're doing invocation of a path, for instance, doing path working, you'll know for sure that you have invoked the proper force by the colors that you'll see. So if I'm invoking Jupiter and I see reds or other colors, I know that I haven't done the right job. I'm in the wrong, I've invoked the wrong force, and I can banish and get on out of there. And it's the same way with any of the planets that I might be trying to invoke. The knowledge of the attributions is very important, especially in astral journeying and magic. I can't stress it enough. Okay, the four pillars on both cards represent the cubic stone, the physical universe, and you'll see it here in Waite's card and in Crowley's. They represent the four directions, the watchtowers of the universe, and the pillars that are said to support the universe. And each one of these has a starry canopy overhead showing infinity being united with the finite. The charioteer sits upon the throne, especially here in Crowley's card, you can see it, upon the throne of the moon, the foundation, Yesod. On his head is the crab. In Crowley's card, you see it here. On his head is the crab, the animal of Cancer. Can you see that okay? Just bear with me. I'm not a technological genius. I'm not a genius at all, actually, to be honest with you. And the wheels on both cards have the same meaning as they did on the Wheel of Fortune card, the circular movement of creation. And I did a talk on the Wheel of Fortune card, refer to that, please. Waite's card, and so Waite's card is based on a design by Eliphas Levi. And we'll do a brief, I want to read a little bit what Eliphas Levi had to say about this card in his book, Transcendental Magic. A cubic chariot with four pillars and an azure and starry drapery. In this chariot, between the four pillars, a victor crowned with a circle adorned with three radiant golden pentagrams. Upon his breast are the three superimposed squares. On his shoulders, the Urim and Thummim of the sovereign sacrificer, represented by two crescents of the moon in Gedula, Qesheth, and Geburah. In his hand is a scepter surmounted by a globe, square and triangle. His attitude is proud and tranquil. A double sphinx or two sphinxes joined at the haunches are harnessed to the chariot. They are pulling in opposite directions but are looking the same way. They are respectively black and white. On the square which forms the forepart of the chariot is the Indian lingam, surrounded by the flying sphere of the Egyptians. So, like I said, Waite took his design from Levy, and it was actually Pamela Smith who painted Waite's cards. Okay, he has two sphinxes of contrasting colors. Let me get this card up for you to look at it a little closer. I know that. Just bear with me again, like I say. showing oppositions now working in harmony, also representing the two pillars before the temple of King Solomon, Boaz and Jachin. These sphinxes are at rest, for the motion is guided by the higher self alone. The sum total of action, like we talked about in the Wheel of Fortune talk, is rest. The sum total of action is rest. Waite's figure wears a crown of 8 points, showing the dominion of spirit. This also is the star of Mercury, the magician, representing the divine will, right here. The winged disc, can you see it? The winged disc representing Hadit, the power of the divine force to go. His shows the lingam and the vulva united here, pointing again to the uniting of the feminine and masculine polarities in the aspirant. He has a cubic stone on his breast, white and purified, for he has become the stone. He bears the scepter of dominion here. On his shoulders are the emblems of the moon, waning and waxing. With the figure in the middle, with the figure in the middle representing the full moon, the fully illuminated unconscious. Waite says they are representative. These two crests, these two moons, are representative of Urim and Thummim, elements of the Hoshin, the breastplate worn by the high priest of Israel. And if you know anything about like that, or the high priest, he wore this breastplate before he could go into the Holy of Holies to make sacrifice and sprinkle blood upon the Holy of Holies. Okay, something I do recommend for this card, a reading that and also in Waite's card, something I wanted to point out in the background is the waters. And these waters begin to flow from the path of the high priestess, the waters of the unconscious. Okay, something else I wanted to point out. And he also wears the zodiacal belt, the belt of the zodiac. He has the elemental tables upon his kilt, I guess you could call it. Down. I highly recommend the reading of the Bhagavad Gita concerning this card. In the Bhagavad Gita, the hero Arjuna and the Lord Krishna are in a chariot, preparing for battle. With Arjuna, they're preparing for battle with Arjuna's kinfolk, who have denied him his divine right as king. And so this is kind of interesting. So the kinsfolk in this story would represent the various aspects of ourselves, our untamed emotions and thoughts that have become almost like family to us as we go through our lives. And they have denied him his divine right as king. Here the Lord Krishna, representing the HGA, counsels Arjuna about his duties. This story is an allegory for us as people who when taking incarnation into the false programming of our peers and the overwhelming influence of our senses, have forgotten our divinity. Okay. We're going to take a quick look at the attributions according to 777. The holy book, of course, would be Liber Keth. And also I would recommend Liber 418, the 12th Aether. The color in the king scale is amber. The stone is amber. The plant is the lotus. The animals are the crab, the turtle, and the sphinx. The magical power you would gain at this point would be the power of casting enchantments. The perfume, anointia, myrrh. The magical weapon, the furnace. Interesting enough to think about the furnace and the process of distillation, the heating that's needed for this process. It actually comes from Mars that heats the waters and brings and distills the raw essence. Okay, so I want to start, kind of take a break here at this point. Not a break, but kind of digress at this point to talk about prana, chi, vril, and life force. We as aspirants must learn to harness this spiritual energy that is present in the very air we breathe and the foods we eat. You as an aspirant must begin a practice of breathing properly and eating a proper diet. Daily breathing exercises such as pranayama will increase your vital force tremendously. Eating a proper diet that includes living foods such as fresh vegetables and fruits will also increase life force because these foods contain prana. This is very important. We talked about last time of the restraining of the senses. You know how uncontrolled thoughts and emotions drain our life force. Here, I'm talking about how to acquire, to utilize prana, vril, chi, the force of the universe that's all around us, in the air and everything, in the sunlight. In today's world, on the magical paths, not enough emphasis is placed on diet. If everything you eat is just dead matter, you will become sickly. The chariot is our bodies, and it requires certain nutrients to operate correctly. Most people today take better care of their cars than they do their bodies. Your body is the car that drives your spirit through this incarnation. If your body fails, your spiritual journey is pretty much over. If you're unhealthy, you can't do anything. If you are obese, how will you sit in asana? If you are congested with mucus from sugar and processed foods, how will you be able to do breathing exercises? Our society is addicted to a slave diet. That's right, it's a slave diet that keeps us addicted and makes the medical profession rich. And this is kind of harsh words, but that's one of the things that I'm really hard on my students about is a proper diet, proper exercise, proper breathing, because like I said,